Meaning that they too were defeated by Avrohom.
Okay. So we're on then Gimel Amud Aleph. Towards the bottom, 53a.
53a.
And the Mishnah, going back to the Mishnah had a list of kinds of tumos,
Okay.
53 on the bottom. Around over here.
Oh,
53, yeah. Yeah.
50.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds like it's the right page. So the Mishnah had a list of kinds of tumas that the nazir would cancel his nazirus and have to start all over again. And then it's going to say the next Mishnah those that he doesn't. But in the Mishnah where it said the list of tumos that he does, so it started off on the following al elu, on the following the nazir's megaleach, and it says a list, and then it ends off again al elu. It says it twice. It says that on these the nazir's megaleach, and it's very seems to be extra words. Thank you so much. Thank you. Much appreciated. Thank you. Thank you. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam she'kol niyeh. So the Mishnah, usually the more asks Shikasha that it seems it says that for these, the Nazir would have to stop his zeros. And since it stresses on these, this comes to exclude that something not. That's the nuance when it says on these. So Aleilu Duresha, we're going to give Aleilu the Seifa, that it says two times. Aleilu Nazir Megaleach. So the reason why it says it the first time, Lamute Esem Kisora, Dalmagol Balmaso in Valahi Lolo. The Mishnah is going to say that Etzem Kisora is only Maga and Masa, but not oil. There's no such tumah. If someone is in the same oil as Etzem Kisora, the bone the size of barley, corn, doesn't become tummy. So when the Mishnah says these, only what it says about Meis, Kazais Ben Meis, Eber Menachai, Eber Menameis. It has the whole list of things that are Tumas Ohel. And it says Etzem Kisora, if he touches it. So the reason why it stresses is to say, Dafka if he touches it, Al Magol Maso in, Al Ahilo. If he would have oil, then Kisora wouldn't. Tysus points out that this also refers to Mishnah. Mishnah says so. The Mishnah says Dafka Magan Masa not oil. So you don't need a special nuance to say so. Tysus says that the Mishnah is explaining itself with stressing it. So that's why he says Dafka these, and these are going to be oil, and this is only going to be Maga. Then it says it again. The Mishnah ends off Aleilu. Again, it says Aleilu Anozim Megalech. Why does it have to say it again? Dafka these. Mutei Eben. Here it says Eben Aschuchis. Schuchis sounds like Schuchis, but it doesn't mean that they say the Gesher should be Schuchis, Schachos. It's going to say later on, the Mishnah is also going to be an open Mishnah that's going to say that Schachos is not Nazir Megalech. What does that mean? So it means stones that are jutting out of the wall. Eben, that's an Eben over there, means the stones, and Schachos means that it's jutting out in a way that the person went up under the wall, and he went under one of these stones. And there's tumah, we know that there's tumas meis under one of the stones, but it was forgotten which one. So it's only Rabbanan, it's not going to be with the rice, you don't have to be choshesh that he's tumah. So if Nazir would have been in such a situation where there was a suffix which stone, he went under stones, then later on it's going to be the next Mishnah. It's going to be tomorrow's Mishnah that says that he doesn't have to stop his nazirus because of that. So the reason why the Mishnah says again, Aleilu, is to stress that only the thing that it says in our Mishnah, but other things not. Then it comes to exclude these two things. Tysus points out that both of these things are open in the Mishnah that it says that it's not going to be the Masohel, but not going to have to cancel his nazirus. But the Mishnah anyway stresses that it says Aleilu.
Only because it's a suffix, but if it wasn't a suffix,
If it will be a vada and there's an ohel that made it Thomas there, so then he would have to cancel his nazirus. That's the Mishnah by us. Aleilu Nazir Megalech, all kinds of Thomas ohel. Then Nazir has to stop his nazirus. And then he has to start all over again. So the Mishnah stresses these two things to say it's not for these, to say some things not. And there also happen to be a refresher Mishnah, but the Mishnah wanted to stress it. The next thing the Mishnah said, Chatzi Kavat Samos, the bottom words over here, Chatzi Kavat Samos, which means that if he has bones of a dead man, usually Rova Kav is Mitami Bo'ohel. That was also what we had yesterday. We said even that's only going to be for, it says here that a Rova Samos is only for Truma Vakach, and that's how the Gemara came out yesterday. That Menadin is also not going to be Mitami Bo'ohel, but for Truma and Kachim it is, and Banazir not. And Banazir is only going to be if it's going to be a Chatzi Kav at Sambas. So if it's a half a Kav, which comes out to be the volume of 12, what is that? Instead of Kav is 24 bits, and this will be the volume of the 12 eggs. If he has bones, so much the volume of 12 eggs, so that'll be tamei ba'oil, and even to the point that the nose is going to have to start all over again. And the Gemara starts very simply that we would say it's not a problem. It says chatzi kav almost in robot, almost low. That's the whole time we've been saying that. That it's only if it's a half a kav, not if it's a quarter of a kav. Right? That's what it says. A quarter of a kav is usually enough to be matami ba'oil, but as far as nazir, it doesn't have to start all over again. Only if there was a chatzi kav. A quarter kav is not going to be enough to make him start again. Only half a kav. And the Gemara asks a strange question. We would hechi dami. What's the case? This bone, it's a robot kav. But a bone is matami b'maga, even a barley corn. So what are we talking about? A robot kav? Robot kav is not enough. Even etzim kisora is enough. That's what the words that the Gemara seem to say. What's the case? That it say roba akav of bones is not mutami the nazir. This bahonat samus kisora, typically mishum etzim kisora. If it has bones that are the size of a barley, so then it be tummy anyway because the etzim. So what are you saying that it's not tummy even if it has a quarter of a kav, even if you have 6 egg volumes, even if you have a barley a tiny bit, it's also enough to make him tummy. So the question of her doesn't make sense because we're talking about ohel. That's what the whole point is to say. The Mishnah says ohel, tumas ohel is only when it's a chatzi kav at samos, and a robot samos here is not going to be enough. Of course, if he touches it, that's what the Mishnah continues to say, that if he touches it, it's going to be tummy. So the Gemara's kasha seemingly doesn't make sense. The Gemara is going to taste, and the Gemara answers elo dikmach ekmuche, which would mean like kemach, that it was made into a powder. It's less. You don't even have one piece that's the size of a barley. So what are we talking about? Of course, the Mishnah makes a lot of sense. What is the Gemara saying? That robot almost is talking about that it doesn't have a robot. We're talking about that it should be matami ba'ohel. So Tosfos explains that the Gemara is based on what he's going to say soon. The samuch had been the name of a samuch that the reason why it says robot almost later on is going to say that there's not even going to be maga and masa. We'll see soon the next Gemara. And that the Mishnah is coming to say that for a robot kav there is going to be maga, and that the Gemara is asking. You don't have to come on. It means we said for sure. We would have said for sure there's maga, but the Gemara say we'll see soon there's going to be a chiddush that there's maga, and that if you touch it, it's true. No oil for sure not. Oil is only chatzi kav. There was no problem with that. But it's mashma that there is going to be something special about a robot samos that is going to become tummy if he touches it. And that the Gemara says not a chiddush. Even if you touch a robot samos, you're tummy maga. If you touch a barley corn about samos, you're tummy maga. And that the Gemara says that is a chiddush of robot, that if you touch a robot samos, even if it's made into a powder, even if it's less. So there is a chiddush being said over here. The fact that there's no ohel, that's not a chiddush. The Gemara wouldn't have spoken about it. Of course, we're talking about that there's no maga less than a chatzi kav. But the Gemara is going to say there is a chiddush that a robot is mitame b'maga. Even if you, in the same ohel, it's not going to make you tummy, but if you touch this robot samos, then it is going to make you tummy. And that thing was asking, if you have a barley corn of a bone, it's already tummy. The answer is, that there's not a chiddush over here, that even if it's made into a powder, if you have a powder, powder means that it's less than a etzem kisor. So you're not tummy if you touch it. If you touch a piece of bone of a mace that's less than a barley, size of a barley, you're not tummy, even if you touched it. But if you have a whole roba, it's a roba kav, it's going to be 6 egg volumes of this powder, bone powder. So then you are going to be tamei maga. It's going to be tamei maga also. So that's the chiddush that it says in the roba. We'll come back. So far the Gemara wouldn't be understandable what the Gemara wants. But Tosfos says it's based on the Gemara coming up. The next part of the Mishnah says on the 4th line, Alevim and Ames, Alevim and Achai, Sheish Alein Basar Karoi. Here it says here Alehen. We said in the Mishnah the Gersa was Allah. We said they should change it because here it also says Alehen. Both Avim and Ames or Avim and Achai, a limb of a dead man or a limb that came off of a live man, like an amputated limb. So if it has enough flesh on it, which here doesn't say what that means, but the Gemara says other places that it's enough that it would rejuvenate. If there'd be that much basar, it would rejuvenate itself and heal. So that is also going to be matami ba'ohel. That's the Mishnah. A list of things that are matami ba'ohel, and it says Ibn and Ames that has enough basar karoi, or Ibn and Achai that has basar karoi. Ibn and Achai is also matami ba'ohel. We mentioned if a Kohen goes to a hospital, also there's a problem about even if they're no dead, but if there's Ibn and Achai, an amputated limb is also going to be matami ba'ohel. Mm-hmm. So the one wants to know, how about Eina Lein basar karoi? If it doesn't have enough basar, so surely is not metame be'ohel. That's what the Mishnah is saying. It has to have basa karoi. It has to have that amount of flesh. If it doesn't have that amount of flesh, it doesn't meet the requirements to be metame be'ohel. So what if it will have less than that amount? So the Gemara doesn't mean if it's metame be'ohel. That we know. But the issue is going to be is metame be'maga. That's where the Gemara is coming into. It's very vague in the Gemara that you have to figure out. Maybe we expect to figure it out, or the Rishonim helped us. That the question is, what if you touched it? In the Gemara is going to be muchach as we go on the Gemara. That's what the Gemara is going to say. But here the Gemara didn't speak it out. That and you touched it. Is it going to be tamei b'maga? So it doesn't meet the requirements of being an aver, either aver menameis, aver menachai, to be metame b'ohel, because it doesn't have basa karoi. But will it be metame b'maga if you touched it? Machlokes Reb Yochanan and Rish Lakish. Reb Yochanan Amar ein nazir megaleach alein. Rish Lakish Amar nazir megaleach alein. Machlokes Reb Yochanan says that it's not even maga. Even if you touch it, if it doesn't have the amount of flesh, so then it doesn't even have maga. It doesn't have oil for sure. It doesn't even have maga and masa. And Rish Lakish says that it does. That if you touch this aver, it's still called an aver. It's only called an aver to be metami b'ohel if it has enough flesh on it. Basa karoi. But even if it doesn't, it's still going to be tamei if you touched it. And the Gemara explains each one where he gets it from. Because the Mishnah says, it says, if we see the Mishnah, so it would help us just to zoom out a second without seeing it physically in the Mishnah, but just to get the idea. Our Mishnah spoke about a few pages ago the list of things that the Nazir is Megaleach. And we had a whole list of things. And the next Mishnah, tomorrow's Mishnah, is going to say the following: the Nazir is not Megaleach. There are two Mishnahs, a positive Mishnah and a negative Mishnah. The first Mishnah says the following: the Nazir is going to have to cancel his zeros if he had contact with them, either maga or masa, or each one has its own dinner. And then it says the next Mishnah that the things that are not going to make the nazir to be megaleach. So Rabbi Yochanan, now we're talking about the aver. The subject of today is going to be here, the aver that doesn't have basa karoi. Rabbi Yochanan says it doesn't even have maga. Rish Lakish says it does have tumas maga. Where does Rabbi Yochanan get it from? From our Mishnah, the diak of our Mishnah. Rabbi Yochanan says the ein nazir megaleach alein. Why? Taktani b'reisha alei b'menameis v'alei b'menachai. Yesh aleihen basar karoi. They take out this word. They take out, first of all, they take this out. The Bach takes this word, this etc. is missing. It's not a etc. here. Alei b'menameis, alei b'menachai, sheyesh aleihen. So this word kazais also doesn't make sense. It doesn't have to do with a kazais. It has to do with basar karoi. So they take these two things out. Maybe I could jot it out. They take out this, and they take out this. That seems to be a printing mistake. So that's what it says. So Rabbi Yochanan says that's what it says in the Mishnah. Only if it has that requirement that it has basar, and the diak is only if it has basar. If it doesn't have basar karoi, so then it's not megaleach alein. And it doesn't say a difference if it's maga or masa, even though it's talking about ohel. I said, even if it's, but it's mashma that it's not going to have any kind of a tumah. The fact that it says this is what it is, this is what it is. So if it doesn't meet that requirement, so it's not going to be a tumah even if he touches it. He has the other diak. In the sefer, when it says the things that you're not megaleach on, has a list of things that the nazir won't have to be megaleach, and it doesn't say that if it has aver that doesn't have basar, so he's not megaleach. Why didn't it say it?
Also, within our Mishnah, we have something that has
it says that's maga, right? Over there it says the fair that there is maga.
And no oil.
Yes. So what's the
It says
question?
in our Mishnah, it says something which has maga and doesn't have oil.
So what's the question? Which way?
But
Why shouldn't it say it in our Mishnah? Why? Yes, and Rish Lakish just said it in our Mishnah.
in our Mishnah,
That's pretty much like a Yochanan. So it's pretty much like a Yochanan. You're saying like a Yochanan that if our Mishnah doesn't say it, the Mishnah says the positive things that he would be megalech. It doesn't say it. It's not here. Rish Lakish says it doesn't say in the other Mishnah also the things that are not. So you're taking your Yochanan side. I think that the fact that it doesn't say in the list of things that he is megalech, so that means there's megalech. Rish Lakish says it doesn't say in the Mishnah of the things that are not megalech, so we could be medayik that. Not even more. So Rabbi Yochanan, it doesn't have to say it. If it's something that I could deduce from the Reisha already, so it doesn't have to say it again. The Mishnah later on is going to say things we didn't know about, and it's going to be schachos and pros, things we didn't talk about the Reisha. But if it says in the Reisha that it has these requirements, he's megaleach, so you could deduce that if it doesn't have that, you're not megaleach. But the Gemara is attacking Rabbi Yochanan. There are things that it says in the next Mishnah. Maybe we should just jump a second to the next Mishnah. No, here it is, the Mishnah. This is on the next page. Schachos, pros, Pisa pras, Eretz Amim, Agola, Ladofik. All these things that didn't say in the first Mishnah, and it says over here, all these things, Al Elu, Eina Nazir Megaleach. This is the list where it says the things that the Nazir is not Megaleach. But, and Rabbi Yochanan says, Shlok says, how come it doesn't say a name that doesn't have Basar? It's not in the Mishnah over here. It must be that he's Megaleach. Rabbi Yochanan says that it's, you can die from the first Mishnah. And here the Gemara says, look, it's going to say Revi'as Dam, it's going to say Robat Samos. The Mishnah did speak about these things in the first Mishnah. It said Robat Samos sheyesh alei chatzikav Samos sheyesh alei basa, and it said a chatzi lug. So these two things the Gemara is going to attack Rabbi Yochanan, that the Mishnah did say. We'll leave out the word oil over here, but it says Revi'as Dam and a Robat Samos, even though it could have been medayik in the Mishnah before. The Mishnah before says chatzi lug and a chatzi kav. That's the things that you're Megalech. So Rabbi Yochanan, why does the Mishnah have to say that these things are not Megalech? That's the Gemara's kasha on Rabbi Yochanan. Where is that? Rabbi Yochanan says that if he could deduce it from the Reisha, it doesn't have to say it again in the Sefer. But the Gemara says it does. It says there's a Chatzikav and there's a Robat Samos. The Chatzikav at Samos. The Mashma Chatzikav at Samos in Robat Samos low. You could only be Sefer Robat Samos. If you want to say that whatever you come back from the ratio doesn't have to repeat it in the safe, it's not Megaleach. To say about something because the ratio that a chatzikav is Megaleach. We could do this by ourselves. And anything less than half a kav is not Megaleach, and a kav is not doesn't meet the requirements. So why is the Mishnah have in the sefer that a kav of Atzamos he's not Megaleach? Again. Rabbi Yochanan said anything that you could have been medayik on your own from the ratio. The fact that it doesn't say it in the ratio, you don't have to say it again in the sefer. There's a positive list and there's a negative list. If it's not on the positive list, so it's off the list. How come? According to Rabbi Yochanan, we'll ask him how come the Mishnah bothered to repeat itself. It says in our Mishnah that a chas atzam yiv megaleach. We would know by ourselves that less than not megaleach. The Mishnah went out of its way to say that a quarter kav not megaleach. So you see that the Mishnah is repeating itself, even though we could have deduced it ourselves. The Gemara says no. There's a reason why I have to repeat it. Hasam ilav robat samos havamena afilu amagol ba'almasolo lach yisrach lemisni robat samos ta'alahu de'eina nazir megaleach. The reason why it repeats in the Mishnah is because if it only have our Mishnah, so we would say that it says kav he's megaleach, and that means even ohel. That's what it says. If it's a chav samos, he's going to stop the nazirus, even if he only was in the same ohel. And we would say that less than a chatzi kav is nothing. Nothing means what? Not even maga. So the Mishnah later on says that he's not Megalech on a Roba Kav, is not to tell you that he's not Megalech on Ohel of a Roba Kav. That we know from the first Mishnah. I wanted to tell you the other way, that a Roba Kav, you're not Megalech if he was in the same Ohel. But if he would have touched a Roba Kav, then he would become Tameh. So this is what he said on the top of the page today, that the Roba Tzamos, the Gemara learns out that even though it's not Ohel, but it is Maga. And that the Gemara asked before, anyway, it's sure going to be maga because it's Esem Kitzora. If you have 6 volumes of egg, as 6 egg volumes of bone, so obviously you have bone which is the size of a barley. And that the Gemara said, no, you can have that. It was made into a powder, and each one is less than Esem Kitzora. But the Tosfos says that's what the Gemara is referring to. It was a little tricky that the Gemara spoke about it before we know the answer, before we know what the Gemara is going on. The Gemara is going on this point that the Mishnah later on that says that there's no ohel on a Robat Samos is coming to be medayik that there is maga on the Robat Samos. And that's the reason that Yochanan says, has to say, if you would have been only on Mishnah, you would have thought that it has no ohel and no maga either. So the Mishnah has to say later, the Roba doesn't have ohel, but it does have maga. And the Gemara says that the Esem Kis is maga that we know. We have it's less than the Sorah, but if you have altogether a Robat Samos, also a powder, also the nazir is going to be because he touched it. And that's what the Mishnah says later on. So Rabbi Yochanan is still taking his position that the Mishnah wouldn't repeat, doesn't have to repeat it in the next Mishnah if you could deduce it from the first Mishnah. And therefore, the subject we're talking about is Eva She'ein Alei Basar Karoi. Rabbi Yochanan says it's not even Maga. There's nothing because it doesn't say it in the first Mishnah. The Gemara asks another question of Rabbi Yochanan. Chatzi lug dam The Shama we know Chatzi Lugdam in Revias Dam Lo, for Katani Besefer Revias Dam. Again, we're talking Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says that it's not going to say something in the negative list if you could deduce it on your own from the list. In the positive list, it says that the only time that the nazir is megalech is if it's a chatzi lug, a half a lug of the blood. Then there's ohel, and the nazir is going to be megalech. And we could deduce on our own that if it's less than a chatzi lug, there's not going to be megalech, even on maga. And the Mishnah does go out of its way to say that revius dam is not mitame.
In Megillah.
Is ein megala, yeah. But chatzi lug dam. It says in the Reish, the Shama mino chatzi lug dam in revius dam lo. In the Reish alone, we could have deduced that it's not going to be tuma oil and doesn't megala on a revius dam. Only chatzi lug, not a revius, not a quarter. Because Tani b'sefer revius dam. The Mishnah does wait to say that revius dam is not the ohel. Afukim with the Rabbi Kiva. Dam Rabbi Kiva. Revius dam. Bo mishnei mesim v'tamei bohel. Yeah, the place says that wants to say that it's going to be maga. This we have to see the later on. We've been talking about ohel, and Rabbi Kiva have told us now it's down from 2 meis to tamei bohel, and to say that it's not maga at all. There's not going to run a lot of 2 meis in the tamei bohel. Rabbi Yochanan is still sticking to his position. We got 2 kashas on him, but the answer both of the kashas that there's a reason why the Mishnah repeats certain things in the next Mishnah. But as a klal, whatever you could deduce from the first Mishnah, we're not going to repeat it in the second Mishnah. Again, the first Mishnah is a positive Mishnah, Elu Muzalke, Megaleach, and the second one is the Elu that the nazir is not Megaleach. Rabbi Yochanan is that it doesn't have to repeat it. Whatever you could medai from the Reish, I'm not going to say it again. And therefore, Rabbi Yochanan said about our subject, the case of the Aved that doesn't have Basa Karoi, you could learn from our Mishnah that there's no Tumah less than a Aved that has Basa. If it doesn't have Basa, it's not Magalech, even Maga. Even if he touched, just to get the title of today's subject is an Aved which doesn't have Basa Karoi, is it a Tami B'Maga or not? If it has Basa Karoi, it's Tami even B'Ohel. If it doesn't have Basa Karoi, that's what we're talking about. Avrohom says that it doesn't have any Tumah, even if you touch it. And the Shloki says that it does. And the question was, if you would like the Reish of our Mishnah, the fact that it doesn't say it, but he would like it's not even Maga either. The Shloki said that it should have said it in the Sefer. Here the Gemara goes into the subject. Now, we want to focus Rabbi Yochanan Shlokish. If you have an Aver which doesn't have enough basar to make it rejuvenate, is it metame b'maga or not? And the one wants to know what is the case. Hi, Avim and Amei, Sechilami, eat this by Esim Kisoro, my time of the Rabbi Yochanan. Eat the list by Esim Kisoro, my time of the Rish Lakish. What's the case of Aver? We're talking about an Aver that you touched and it doesn't have enough basar. But Aver always has basar, gidim al-samos. What's the definition of an Aver? Basar, gidim al-samos. There are 248 limbs and it has to have 3 ingredients in order to be considered an Aver: flesh, bone, and gidim. They translate as sinews. So here we're talking about that someone touched the Avim and Ames doesn't have basar, and machlokes if it's maga. But the question is, aren't we talking about? But don't we know that touching an etzem, everybody agrees that touching a bone the size of a barley is tummy. So what is this case over here? Manavshach. If it has a bone the size of a barley, surely it should be tummy maga. You know, they go out the rest of the any flesh or gidim the etzem alone. And if it does not have etzem kesora, so then Rish Lakish is a big chiddush. Why should it be? Where does he get it from? That's the most kasha. This is Avim and Ames with Avim and Ames or Avim and Achai. I think. What is the case arguing about? If it has ides etzem kesora, then Rabbi Yochanan should not say that he's not tummy. Surely he touched etzem kesora. Surely he's tummy. Be the less etzem kesora time of the Rish Lakish. Why should Rish Lakish say that it's tummy if it doesn't have the etzem the size of a barley and it's not an Avim? So why should it be tummy even if you touch it? Here goes the rest of it to explain where Rish Lakish gets that it's tummy, though it does have etzem kesora, and even though it's going to be tummy maki, it's going to learn it out of a pasuk. I'm talking about it has less than the size of a barley of a bone, and means mitzad etzem kesora is not going to be tummy. But there's a new halacha that an aver even if it doesn't have a roy, still Matame B'Maga. And that's what the Gemara is going to bring a drasha to say that. The pasuk comes to include it, that it's also going to be Tamei Maga. Tanya. Here goes the Brisa. There's a pasuk, so I was middle of highlighting it. We'll go do it as we go along. So the pasuk says, if anybody touches, so the Gemara is going to dash in this pasuk. Anybody that touches something which is tight, it's talking about Parshas Chutz, where it says how to do the paraduma. Someone if you have time to wait with that, wait till you come. So it says, Al Panei Sadeh, Ze Amal Al Panei Meis. That since it says Asher Yiga, but it says Al Panei Sadeh, Al Panei Meis. He has is roofing. I'm not sure if that's the right word to say, but he's hovering over a mace. So that's Tumas Ohel. Ohel, sometimes if you're under the same roof, or if the person is over the tumah, or the tumah is over the person, that's called. So the word Asad teaches us the thing as Mahal al Panei Mace. If the person is hovering over the mace, he becomes Tamim. B'chalal, it says Al Panei Asadeh, B'chalal Cherev over mace. As we go further, B'chalal Ze'ev Menachai V'yesh Lo L'Halos Arucha. If it's a limb of a live man, and it has enough flesh on it that it should be able to rejuvenate. L'Halos Arucha. Arucha, the word Arucha Marpe, the word Arucha means healing. The word aruka with a kaf means long. Arucha means healing. And Nusach Sfar says it in Shmonesri, right? What?
All five.
All Sfar. Arucha marfe lechol tachluim. So it's able to rejuvenate itself. That's enough flesh that it. This we know. That's telling you the drug. We get it from the psukim. The Al Panei Asad told you about the masoel. We have the masol in the pasuk when the roof is overboard. That it says if you anything inside the ohel. But here there's a din that Al Panei Asad, even if the person himself is the ohel over the mace, also becomes tamei. But halal is coming to tell you, even in a mace that has enough flesh on it. The word next word is cherev, but halal cherev over mace. So cherev is the rush to tell you harezek halal, that even though the pashut means that he was killed by a man who was slain, but of course he's a halal, he's a dead man. But the cherev is an extra word to tell you harezek. Famous Gemara that the kli, some say kli matris, dafka metal that had contact with the dead man becomes the same chumrah as the man himself. The cherev that slaughtered the man, and not after the cherev of a metal kli that touched him also becomes the same as that's not our subject right now. Just coming through it as we dash in the post. The next words are
Doesn't have to move.
no, that's the chiddush that that is not removed. That the pashup shot is if it's metal that touched it becomes it's going to become what they call a viavos. It's going to be the same level as not an avatama. If somebody touches the dead man, he becomes, or kli touches, it becomes a avatama. But the maester stuff is called like the viavos, like the source. So the cherev also becomes the same level as a viavos. The next word is obemes. What's obemes? Zeiva nechlal menames. Also that it has yesh lalas before it was even malachai. And now it says b'meis to tell you even names. The word nechlal, they say the gesher should have been before. So nechlal, I promise that it was separated, it was cut off. So even names is metame, even malachai is metame. The pasuk continues obe etzem adam. That's the next part of the pasuk, and then it says obe kover. Okay. So words I couldn't. I didn't mean to highlight that. Overcover. So Adam, so about someone that we also know. The share doesn't say. It means that the Taisus brings that it's Shanasmach. It doesn't say in the pasuk. It says etzem. You might think that any kind of etzem, and we're saying that it's only going to be if it's going to be robot someone. So if it's going to be quarter cup about someone, that's the amount of loan that he will become tummy. Right? Obekover Zakever Sasam. Zakever Sasam is a closed grave, something which is completely enclosed on all sides. So there's a din, also it's not relevant to us now, but if the Tumas Mace would be inside a grave, and it's a posech tefach, they say, it has to have a tefach space, and it's closed on all sides. So the hair becomes tamei, and the tumah goes up. That means usually if there's an oil, so the oil stops that the tumah shouldn't rise. So someone might ask that if the kever where the mace is buried and there's a tefach above him, so then it shouldn't penetrate. It shouldn't go up because there's an oil. You could say like the coffin. The top of the coffin is going to be the oil which stops the tumah. If it will be less than a tefach, so then then it's go through. There's no oil. But if it's a tefach, there's no oil, and the tumah should contain. How come every coffin or every grave to rise? Since there's a oil tefach, it should up. So there's a new concept called kever sasim. Kever sasim on all sides. Then which is very interesting. Then there are 2 points. We would have thought that there's no tumah at all. If let's say there'd be a mace and there's a board on top of him, a tefach space and a board. The board is going to be a ohel, and it wouldn't go through the top. It wouldn't go through the top. But that's only if the sides are open. At least some opening. That's the opening. So then the timber won't go through the ohel. But if it's closed on all sides, so there's a kever, and it does go through the ohel. And even worse than if it wouldn't be an ohel, because if it wouldn't be an ohel, if it wouldn't be this kever, so then the tumah would only go opposite wherever the mace is. If it would be less than a tefach above the mace, so then wherever the mace is, let's say the coffin would be 4 amas by 1 amma. We're not going to say the whole thing is tummy, only connected the mace, the outline of the mace, that's going to go up. But once it becomes a kever, so then, and that means we're saying now kever means that it's closed on all sides. So then the whole kever becomes tamei, and it's not only going to be tamei opposite the dead man, it's going to be tamei the whole kever.
What's the shot closed on all sides? It means like stones all around, or what is it?
Anything, whatever. A regular kever, any kever is going to, every kever is a kever sasim.
Because
It's closed because it's closed on all sides.
The mace is on the bottom.
The mace is inside a ohel, which is closed on top and closed on all sides. They don't have any trap door that's open. If you'd have a coffin that has a hole or tefach on the side, so then it won't be a kever sasim until they put him into the grave. But the coffin alone is not a kever sasim, because if you have a side where it's open, a tefach by tefach, but a regular coffin that has closed on all sides and on top, so the whole thing becomes a kever sasim. Kever sasim is not only a grave; any enclosed place is going to be called the kever sasim. And if you have a closed coffin, not only is the tumah penetrating through the ohel, even though it's a tefach above, opposite the mace, but it's opposite the whole box, opposite the whole coffin is going to become tamei.
Because we don't use coffins.
I'm just talking about the case. If it's in a box, if it's in a box, then it's.
So how does it work in terms of the outcross, which is just the space? They just put it on.
I'm saying that if the kever surely is tummy connected the whole kever. There's no difference if it's stone or wood. Once the base is buried, he's in a kever sasim. He's in a kever which is closed on all sides, on top and on all sides. It doesn't make a difference that it's never all over him. So the whole thing is. The next word on the top of the page, Tash says we didn't need over here. He says, I don't know why he brings it down. Tumah goes up and down all the way to the heavens, all the way down. And that's not really the subject over here. The subject is to say that it's a kever sasim, and it's tamei connected the whole box, connected the whole kever, not only connected the mace itself. Anyway, what do we want from this? When the Brisa talked about ohel, and it said that last time was a karoi. So far we learned the part that we know. Sorry, I'm messing up over here. He said that b'chalal and b'meis, this pasuk told us even menachai yesh lo lalas arucha, but has enough flesh that's would rejuvenate itself. That will make him tamei b'ohel, tumas ohel, and also b'meis also say v'nechel v'nameis also if it has basa karoi. That's the Mishnah about. That's the halachas of the pasuk we learn out about tumas ohel. And now it goes on to tell us about maga, about contact, touching. We look at nigia if it will be touching, not ohel, but touching. I'm Rav Yehuda Tanya. Rav Yehuda said we had a brisa. Here's the brisa. This pasuk is this v'chol is a mistake. It should be ba'al. Ba'al hanogea be'etzem o b'cholo. If somebody touches a bone or a slain man, and here the drasha goes again. Here goes the drasha. Be'etzem, the etzem kisora o b'cholo o b'meis. This is a different pasuk. This is not the same pasuk as before. This is talking about maga, and it says if somebody touches, okay, we're not going to dash in this word over here. We're talking about tumas maga. We're talking about if he touched it. So it says ba'etzem or b'cholol or b'meis or b'kover. He touched the bone, or he touched the slain man, or the dead, or the grave, and it says that it's tamei maga. Ba'etzem is etzem kisora. What does etzem mean to say? The size of saura. That's enough to make him taga if he touches it. Before we said that, well, roll by order to be tamei oil, but to be tamei, then even the size. Before we said that if it would be Eva Menachai which has flesh, then tamei oil. But here it says that if it's Eva Menachai which doesn't have enough flesh, then it's tamei maga. That's what it seems to say. And the Gemara is going to talk about it. That's going to be a subject that it seems here. And both of them, if you read the Brisa plain, it seems to be very sluggish. What was the whole subject today? Avrohom Shlokish were arguing about an Aver that doesn't have enough basar. It's not at least with Tamei B'Maga. It seems to say over here. It seems to say the pasuk of Maga that even if it ain't Lalas Rucha doesn't have enough flesh by for Aver Menachai or Aver Menameis, like it says now Oba Meis Aver Menachai. So it does seem to be finished. The pasuk, the Rosh Amr Shlokish, what's that coming to be marber? They say that it is a kever before Matan Torah. Dibur means Dibur Hashem spoke by Sinai. So if there was a kever before Matan Torah, maybe there's no Tumah. Even if it's, I think that's still existing now, but maybe the Torah is only with Chadesh from Matan. But if somebody was buried before Matan Torah, now we have a kever that was from somebody that died before Matan. Maybe there's no too much space. So it says no, it's coming to be marble cover. Even if there's an old kever that was somebody died before Matan Torah, also it has all the Thomas. As the end of this brisa. And now the Gemara once we're in the middle of analyzing, trying to find a proof to Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish said there's a special pasuk to say that even if it doesn't have enough flesh, it can be tamei. I even when I say chidami, either this by etzem kisora, I know to get etzem. Elo the less by etzem kisora. Afilu rachi rachmana rabbi. That if this bone, we're talking about if there's touching this eber, if it has talking about that the bone is the size of barley, because then that must be talking about that it doesn't have etzem kisora, and there's a new chiddush that even though it doesn't have etzem kisora and doesn't have enough basar, and it's not tamei bo, but it's still tamei maga. So that's what says. That was what I was about, and this is the thing. Which doesn't have enough basar, and it's not etzem kisora. The chora it doesn't say beferish, but it sounds like it doesn't have a etzem kisora. It's still tamei maga. So isn't that beferish like me? What does Rabbi Yochanan do with this? Rabbi Yochanan can explain to you, I could explain the Bryce. It means that it does have the size of a barley. Means look at the beginning of the Bryce, the first thing was etzem. Etzem kisor. Touch a bone the size of a barley. It says something about an aver that doesn't have enough flesh, and it's also tamei maga. So what's the chiddush? If it has etzem kisora, so then it's everybody etzem kisora is tamei maga. It must be talking about etzem kisora. That's what even though the etzem kisora still tamei. This aver that it says aver nachal menames also has etzem kisora. So why does it have to say it twice? This baby, so it's coming to say a chiddush. The fact that the pasuk says two things at the same time, the same thing twice, it's coming to say that not only is it mag, it says v'alam ageya, the pasuk ageya. So it says if you touch a bone the size of a bone tamei, what if you didn't touch it? You just carried it, didn't touch it, you just carried it and something else. So there's no direct contact. There's no maga, but there's masa. The pasuk here, but the fact that I said it twice, it also has even tumas masa. So Rabbi Yochanan says there's no proof. You want to say the fact that it said that's in kisor, and then it says Aver that is also tamei. It doesn't have enough basar. Is also tamei. There has to. What I didn't say before. So Rish Lakish said that it means that it doesn't have Kisora until you touch the Ditame. Yochanan says it doesn't say that. Less than an SM Kisora is nothing. Not even going to be Maga, even though it's going to be Aver that doesn't have Basar. It doesn't have Basar and it doesn't have Etzor, it's not Tamim Maga. What does the Pasuk mean to tell you over here? That an Etzem that does have a Kisora is not only going to be Tamim Maga, it's even going to be Tamim Masa. So, end of the sugya. What is Rish Lakish and Yochanan? If you have Aver that doesn't have enough Basar, that if it has enough basar, if it doesn't have enough basar, so it's not it's a tamei b'maga. If it has the size of a sora, then sure it's tamei b'maga. If it has essence, talking about a bone, enough flesh to be contained, and it's less than a sora. The bone is less than a sora. Is a tamei maga. So Rish Lakish learns from this pasuk over here, Old B'meis, that it says already essence. To tell you, even if it's Sarah, it's going to be tummy because of Avish, Tumas Maga. And Rabbi Yochanan says it doesn't say that. It's talking about an Etzem Kisora that has Tumas Maga and Tumas Masa. But it still remains what a machlok is. What's the din of a Aver less that doesn't have less than a Sora that doesn't have enough flesh to rejuvenate? Rabbi Yochanan says it doesn't have Tumas Maga. Rish Lakish says it does have Tumas Maga. Because like Rabbi Yochanan, that it does not. One more piece of Gemara, the easy. We spoke about in the Mishnah already. The Mishnah spoke about all the cases that they has Tumas Ohel. So the Nazir has to start all over again. And it says that he has to do Azor Shlishi Shvi, has to speak from the Paradum on the 3rd and 7th day, goes to the mikvah, and he starts. The question is when does he start counting again? It says Achi Yitar until 8 and more. He doesn't start counting, it's new count again, only until it becomes Torah. And the Gemara said, the Mishnah said, the Gemara is going to say now, two choices out of Yitar. In our Mishnah, it happened to say it has to be the Karbanos also. But we said that this Gemara is going to show that the Gemara didn't have that Gersa because the Gemara has a question about it. So it couldn't be that was creation of Mishnah. So the Mishnah said Yitar. So that's the first question. Yitar means was Shvi Koi? Does it mean the 7th day? Adav V'Terev Shemesh? And then it that he could even start counting. Odilma b'shmini koi umayachi yitar achi karbonosav. The machlokes we had, I think, in Daf Yud Aleph, I think a long time ago. I think that's where it was. The machlokes of when could the nazir start counting? Means he was accounting, became tamei, he loses everything, and then he comes tahor, and then he starts again. So then the 7th day, there's a 7th day count, or he has to wait till the 8th day. So that's machlokes. So we're not questioning that there's a machlokes, but the question is who's our Mishnah hold like? It says Ashiyita. What does that mean? It can be the 7th day, it can be the 8th day. Mashma, the Tani Sefer, Masal Amon Miyad. The next Mishnah, which we can do tomorrow, that it says these are the ones that ain't on Nazir Megaleach. It says this is a list of things that the Nazir is not going to be in Megaleach, Schachos, Pros, Beis Pras, etc. Aleilu ain't on Nazir Megaleach. Here it says, but what do you do? But he is tummy mace. Here's cases where he is tummy mace, but he doesn't have to start, it doesn't cancel those naziros. So it says, Maza B'Shichi Ushvi, he has to become Torah. And here it says, just to turn the page for a second, the Eino Sosu Esakodman, he doesn't lose the earlier days. He starts counting right away. The korban no korban to bring, he does continues counting. Means the days that he was tummy don't count, but he continues counting. The fact that it said here that he starts counting right away. Thank you. He starts counting right away, and it didn't say that by the Mishnah before. That sounds like he doesn't start counting right away. The fact that the Mishnah doesn't say those words. Here's the Gemara. Tashma. The next Mishnah is going to say Masal Amon Miyad, but in the Mishnah before it didn't say that. The Mishnah before by Yas, then it says when he does Yisoser and he starts again. It doesn't say that he Mazda Shlishu Shvi and he starts again. It says until he's Torah. That sounds like not the same terminology. So less Mishnah where it says Masal Amon Miyad, that means it doesn't have to be because there are no kabbanas. But over here, it must mean that he has to be no kabbanas also. According to that, Mani Rabbanani, the Amin, the Zirus, the Tara, Shmini, Lo Taiva. That goes according to Rabbanan, and that's how we pass him, that he can't start counting the Nazirus of Tara until after he brought his kabbanas on the 8th day. So we had more or less 2 sugyas today. Is that true? Maybe 3. The first sugya on the first on the Amar we had a couple of things that we do from other places, less than the Esem Kisora or Schachos, it's going to say that it's not going to even be Tamei with Maga, even well, the Esem Kisora is there's no that we knew. Esem Kisora there is Maga, but there's no oil, Maga Masa, and Even Schachos, they're going to say there's no oil over there. And the next sugya on the base, the main sugya was Ein Alein Basa Karoi. Avrohom says that's not even Maga, and that's how he paskin. And the Gemara went through the drasha that the Chorah is a drasha in Rish Lakish says. The Gemara Rish Lakish says Avrohom says it's only to tell you that there's also Masa. And but if it's going to be a bone less than a Saora, and also there's no Basa Karoi, it's not even time of Maga. And last Gemara was says just to be like the Mishnah. The Mishnah knows that the nazir doesn't start again until he brings the karbanos on the 8th day. Okay, Yashikar, everybody. Thank you. And we'll be starting what's some halachas of Pesach. That was the plan.